All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to our morning devotions. I just got back from the dentist. My face is still frozen, so if it's a little, I don't know, it doesn't look too bad, but I just thought um, if it shows up on the morning devotion, you understand why. We are in episode 252. Second Kings 12, 1 through 12 is the passage that I posted. I entitled this The Restoration of the Temple under Joash. This is a mixed bag kind of chapter. The parallel passage is in Second Chronicles 24, and in Second Chronicles 24, there's way more information than there is in this passage in Second Kings chapter 12. So I'm going to try to stay close to Second Kings chapter 12, but try to fill in the blanks with the material out of Second Chronicles 24. So I posted the first 12 verses. It says this. It says, in the 7th year of Jehu, Joash began to reign, and 40 years reigned he in Jerusalem. Now that's big. 40 years is a long time. That's the same length as David. All right. And his mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. And here you go. And Jehoash did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Now, here's the second part of verse 2, which is crucial because this verse is going to tie in with the rest of his life, really. He said, he did what was right in the sight of the Lord all his days, wherein Jehoiada the priest instructed him. Wherein Jehoiada the priest instructed him. And you're going to find out in Second Chronicles 24 that Jehoiada lives to be 130 years old. Isn't that amazing? 130. And I'll jump ahead because at the end of this chapter, I might not get to it. After Jehoiada dies, the princes of Judah come to the king, and he begins to listen to them. And the princes of Judah are a bunch of corrupt men. The government leaders and all the princes and the rich men, the businessmen in Judah are now have the ear of the king rather than Jehoiada, the godly counselor, the priest. And he follows that counsel, and we begin to have idolatry enter back into Israel, even after what we're going to see is the restoration of the temple. And after that transition happens, we find, because all of that's in the end of this chapter, but it's not in Second Kings. And after that, Zechariah, one of the sons of Jehoiada, the Spirit of God comes upon him and prophesies against Jehoash and about this slipping back into idolatry. And I have to add this too. I missed this. He is an old man when this happens, when he begins to listen to the princes of Judah. This idea of old men losing their way is all through the Bible. David loses his way. Jehoash loses his way. I mean, when guys get up in years, basically what we find out is they get soft and vulnerable. That's something to keep in mind. All of you, everybody needs to keep this in mind, especially the men as they get older. They get soft. In the scripture, they won't hold the line. The iron, so to speak, is out of them. They figure that they've done their work and everything's behind them. And then they're vulnerable to the temptations of the adversary. They get soft, vulnerable, and they begin making bad decisions. This is a theme that we see in the text, all right? Even Elijah doesn't have to deal with it. He's taken to heaven. Enoch doesn't have to deal with it. He's taken to heaven. I mean, and the apostles don't live long. They're all martyred before they get to be old men, which is something to think about. Christ is crucified and goes to glory, and that's a whole other story. But as a young man is the point. We're dealing with youth and in the strength of youth and the liability of weakness and old age. All right. So anyway, this is what's going to happen to him. And so at the behest of the king, Zechariah orders that the son of his counselor that kept him on track his whole life is stoned. This is the end. I mean, I got the good part here in the front, but this is horrible. So he stones the prophet Jehoash, the 1 year old that's rescued by his aunt when he's old. Stones the guy that's giving him the good counsel because he's listening to the princes, and then because of that, in that atrocity, he is assassinated in his bed. I mean, that's how this happens. So anyway, that's the end of this. And on top of that, in Second Chronicles, which isn't here, in Second Chronicles, Hazael comes down from Syria, threatens him, and he ends up giving everything there is. It's a horrible ending is the point. All right, so I got all the bad stuff out of the way. So let's come back here. As long as Jehoiada, the priest, is with the king, then everything's good. And it says, but the high places were not taken away. And they're not taken away. All right. It still says he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. It says the people still sacrifice and burn incense in the high places. So this is still happening. This is happening in Judah. All right. So this isn't Israel. Okay. This is Judah in the south. And here we go. And Joash said to the priests, and these priests, because they have been living under Athaliah, are not much of priests. All right, they're not much of priests. What you're going to find out here, the background behind all this, is that the temple has been just demolished. If you can believe this, Athaliah and her family demolished the temple, and it's been demolished. And the commentators say, well, Jehoiada's been a good counsel to Joash, but where was he while the temple is being demolished? And I think the whole idea is that he didn't want to get killed. I mean, it doesn't say that. But Athaliah, in Second Chronicles, it says, Athaliah, the wicked woman. We talk about other wicked women. Well, here in the inspired, preserved Word of God, her name is the wicked woman. Who's the wicked woman? Well, that's her designation in Second Chronicles. So anyway, they need to raise money for the reconstruction of what Athaliah tore down. All right, that's what's behind this. And Joash said to the priests, all the money of the dedicated things which is brought into the house of the Lord. And then there's 3 categories here. Even the money that everyone that passes the account, and that's just your regular tax. Everybody, I think all the men had to pay, a half a shekel every year. Okay, something like that. All right, so you have your regular tax, temple tax. So that's going to go towards the restoration of the temple. Then it goes on, the money that is that every man is set at, and that would be like redeeming things. All right, there was also something given for the redemption of the firstborn, and giving vows, different things like that. There was also money accumulated for that. And all the money that cometh into a man's heart to bring, that would be free will offerings. So they break it down into these 3 categories, and this all is supposed to be put into, so to speak, a savings account. And in this savings account, this was supposed to be used to the repair and the construction of the temple that Athaliah tore down. And then it says, it closes, the money that cometh into any man's heart to bring into the house of the Lord. So you have regular ceremonial money, you have the regular tax money, and you have free will offerings. That's really what you have here. And then in verse 5 it says, let the priest take it to them, every man of his acquaintance, and let them repair the breaches of the house, wheresoever any breach shall be found. So that's the idea, that's the purpose. So this is fundraising from the Israeli people to rebuild the temple. All right, that's all this is. But it was so that in the 23rd year of the king Jehoash, the priests had not repaired the breaches of the house, and this is fascinating. And most of this, when you read it carefully, no work has been done because these priests can't manage money. They're not sure how much they have or where it is, and so because there's no fiscal accountability here. Nothing has been contracted. It's like I'm not sure how much is in the bank, so I don't know how much I can spend only on a national level. That's what's going on here. And so when we talk about fiscal responsibility and knowing your checks and balances, your ledger and all of that, I mean, none of that is happening here. And what we're going to find out in a couple of verses is that this was just too much for these priests. Apparently, there wasn't anybody there that had any capacity, fiscal capacity, to manage money coming in from these three areas, how to save it and know where it is, because you have all the different orders of priests and all these different things. And it was so, they were so unprepared to accomplish this that nothing took place. That's what we're looking at here. When we talk about the church being an institution and an organism, that it's a spiritual organism, but it is also an institution. That is, not only is there a spiritual work going out as the word goes out and the winning of the lost and spiritual growth, there are also very mundane things that have to be done in a church in America. Like you have to keep the lights on, and if there's a mortgage, you have to pay the mortgage, right? And there's roofs that need to be repaired, and periodically you need to update things, all right? You have to know, and that's why you need some kind of accountability, So when you get, what I'm saying is every church has a treasurer, I think. Well, you need a treasurer that can keep track of money. Not everybody in the church can be a church treasurer, okay? Because some are more oriented towards this guy, or their wives take care of the finances, not the guys. If that were the case in a church, things would go haywire. What you need is men that can balance the books and know what the income is and how to manage it. I throw all that out to say here, that's not happening, okay? So no work has been done. It says, and King Joash called for Jehoiada the priest and the other priests and said unto them, why repair ye not the breaches of the house? The king's calling everybody, said, why aren't we on the way to repairing this? How come no work has been done? I mean, we've been collecting money for I don't know how long here, and nobody's contracted to do the work. It says now therefore receive no more money of your acquaintance. We're pitching this plan. We're not getting anywhere. Where is everything? And I mean, it doesn't say it here, but you would think that in that confusion, I mean, it doesn't say it here, but these priests, I mean, is there any money, or have they spent it, or have they collected it? It doesn't say, but nothing's happening. He says, now therefore receive no more money of your acquaintance, but deliver it for the breaches of the house. He said, we got to get back to our focus here, okay? And the priest consented to receive no more money of the people, neither to repair the breaches of the house. That's it in verse 8. I had to look that up. What are you talking about? So they agreed they're not going to take any more money and not to repair the breaches of the house. And you want to know why? Because they don't want the responsibility. The responsibility of gathering the money and making sure it's designated for this project, and then to actually talk to the contractors and get them on board. The priests don't want that. They said, no, okay, good. We're going to cut that whole plan off. We don't like that plan, King. It's not working because they're not working it. All right? They're not working it. And so they said, okay, we're not going to engage in this, take this money from these three sources and then contract people to get the work done. You cannot count on these men. So they just said, good. If you don't want to do it, we're not going to collect it, and we're not going to repair anything either. We're not going to talk to the guys that need to get this done. That's where this begins. So the king's got a great idea, all right? He wants to repair the house of the Lord, but the guys that are the priests there don't want to have anything to do about how to actually get that done. I know. Is that irritating? Is that irritating to think that's in the Word of God like that? It's so true. This is so true. You got to have the right people in the right place to get anything done. That is the facts. And some people, they get after the pastor because somebody wants a job, and they talk about it. And he doesn't get the job, and they say, well, it's for some reason. I mean, is there some reason here not to think the priest can do it? Well, they can't. There's some people that think they can do things and they can't. And then you have to start over if you really want to get the job done, and then feelings are hurt and all of that. Now, here it's the king, but in the church, I mean, this is trouble. You want to make sure you have the right people in the right place is the point. When it comes down to that, when the church has to operate, and don't get this wrong, but it's not only an organism, a living organism, but it is an institution. It's an institution. In one way, it operates like a business. Now, that business has to be operated according to the scripture, and in that way, it operates differently than every other business. That is, it operates by faith and not just by sight, or it should, all right? But the point is, when it comes to the actual operation of things, you do not hire somebody to cut your lawn or contract for lawn care if you need something like that with somebody that can't do it and leaves the property looking like trash on Sunday morning. All right? You don't want to have somebody that's going to blacktop your parking lot that can't do it, that doesn't have the equipment or doesn't have good references. Yeah, but he's my buddy, or he's my brother-in-law. Yeah. Yeah, that's a bad idea. All right? It's a bad idea to hire people in the church to do the work. It's a bad idea. Everybody says, yeah, but they want to serve the Lord. I'm just giving you my 2 cents here. It's a bad idea. Hire somebody that doesn't go there to church. Because if the work is bad, try then to settle when you're talking to a saint in the church. They say, I'm going to do this remodeling. So you hire them because they're a saint, and it's between the church and a saint, and he's a builder and all of that. And then he builds it, and it's rotten. It's not what you want. It's poorly done. Now what do? You say, we're not paying you. You have to go in there and repair it. This isn't what we wanted. And now you talk about self-inflicted wounds in the church. He can either feel sorry that you didn't invite him to do it in the first place, okay, or you can avoid all of that and just get some lost soul that you know can do it. So if you have to go after them because the work's not done well, nobody's got the hair on their back standing up, all right? I mean, anyway, what we're looking at here is that kind of mundane problem. So what's the solution? The solution here is what churches do, and it's interesting why we do this. Why is there an offering box at the back of your church? The church I go to has an offering basket at the back of the church. They don't pass an offering plate. My dad never passed an offering plate. He had an offering box, and you went in and you put your money in the offering box, and they never passed an offering. All right. And now they put ATM machines in the vestibule of churches. Okay, you can just use your debit card to give your offering. And I don't know that I'm against that actually. Anyway, but this is where the offering box is found right here in this passage. It's a solution to this problem. He said in verse 9, but Jehoiada the priest took a chest and bored a hole in the lid of it. It's got a box, puts a hole in the lid of it, set it beside the altar. On the right side is one that cometh into the house of the Lord. And the priest that kept the door put therein all the money that was brought into the house of the Lord. Now we have a common place where it all goes. We can track it now. It's in a box next, going into the temple. And the priests are keeping track of this. So you know exactly what was for the project because it's in the box. There you go. We're not doing this other kind of freelancing. The money just goes in the box. And it was so that when they saw that there was much money in the chest, that the king's scribe and the high priest came up and put up in bags and told the money, that is, they told the money, they counted it, they kept an account of it. So the box is full. So now you got to put what was in there in bags, and now you got to keep a tally, how much. The box had this in it, this in it, this in it, and now it's not in the box, it's in a bag, but this is all designated money for the repair of the temple. This is your first building program, all right, in the Bible. There's some examples here. You want to start a building program, make sure you know where the money's going and you can track it, and you keep that money separate from everything else and only give it to people that know what they're doing. Here, the only one that's touching it here, according to the text here, is the king's scribe, which would be the guy that's in charge of the treasury, and the high priest. There's it. It's only two guys. They left it up to those guys, nobody else. That's a good idea too, because in a church, everywhere I pastored, there's only certain guys that were allowed to count money. Only certain guys counted money. All right, here there's only two guys. There's a principle here. Make sure the money is designated. Don't make it complicated. And only leave it up to trusted people to manage it so you know where every dime is. But what is this? You say, well, what's this got to do with soul winning? You say, I can just hear that. I mean, see, that's why the church is so imbalanced. They've heard 13 or 20 verses every Sunday, and they don't know it's actually in the Bible about how to manage finances. How the church is supposed to manage finances, or the principles of it. And not only the church here, it's the Old Testament. This is a good example of how government should operate. I mean, a building program, a box that designates it. Only a handful of people can touch it. Keep a tally. Be able to put in the bulletin, we're now up to this amount of the budget. And you've seen this. Churches do this. There's a little, or they got a thermometer, and they're going for whatever, $10,000, and there's in 1,000 and 2,000 and 3,000 until they hit the top, and then they contract. Right? That's just how it works. That's what's happening here. So they got the money. They've got accountability. And then it says in verse 11, and they gave the money, being told, that is, now they know how much they have, being told, into the hands of them that did the work. They know they have the money to get the project done. And the oversight of the house of the Lord. So you got your contractors, and you guys, the guys going to take the oversight of it, right? You got the actual craftsmen, and you got the foremen and the general contractors and subcontractors, and they laid it out to the carpenters and builders that wrought upon the house of the Lord. They said, here's what we got. Let's get it done. See? It's easy. And the builders and the contractors, they're happy because they know they had the money. They're going to get paid. Goes on. And then it goes on. And to masons and hewers of stone to buy timber and hewed stone to repair the breaches of the house of the Lord, and for all that was laid out for the house to repair it. Now, I have to say this too. The temple is the temple, but it takes this kind of like mundane labor to get the temple rebuilt. So the project is building a hospital on a mission field. That's the project. The hospital on the mission field is going to be a great place of evangelism, and countless souls are going to be saved because the doctors there are not only going to care for their bodies, but they're going to lead them to the Lord, and undoubtedly there'll be church planting as well. All right, that's the idea. But to do that, back in the United States, you have to have this, to send it there, you have to have this mundane, so to speak, preparation for spiritual work if it's when it comes to the resources. And then people can say, well, what about the prayer and all of that? All of that is the element that separates this kind of institution from just business, okay? Because, I mean, sometimes we take steps of faith and all that led by the Lord, and the Lord provides it, all right? All of those things. And all of that should be bathed in prayer anyway. But the bottom line is either by answered prayer, somebody else has done the work and is giving it to you for the project. So it's already over there been mundane work, and then you receive the benefit of it, or you do it yourself. I mean, the church just does it itself. But either way, it just comes down to giving and good planning. All right. And this is why I'm thankful for rich guys that love the Lord, because they break their backs every day making all the money they make, and then they give it away. So these kind of things can happen, and that would be like to an answer to prayer. But the fact is, behind it all is this kind of planning. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's keep going. So they're able to provide the means to get the production done. It says, howbeit there were not made, verse 12, let me finish verse 12. And to masons and hewers of stone to buy timber and hewed stone to repair the breaches of the house of the Lord, and for all that was laid out for the house to repair it. Howbeit there were not made for the house of the Lord bowls of silver, snuffers, basins, trumpets, any vessels of gold or vessels of silver, of the money that was brought into the house of the Lord. So all the things to perform the sacrifices and to care for the holy place and out in the outer courtyard, there wasn't money for that. But they gave that to the workmen and repaired therewith the house of the Lord. And they what they had, they did. That's what they gave. Moreover, they reckoned not with the men. And this is interesting here because this really is this whole verse is a verse of nobility and trustworthiness, which this would be tough, this verse right here. This is going to be tough. Although I think there's guys I could do this with. I really do. But this is tough in this world. I mean, here's what I say, what you expect, you have to inspect. What you expect, you have to inspect. You can't do what's done here, what we're going to read in this verse. I mean, it's hard to get anybody, a contractor, somebody to do something, and then without keeping your eye on everything to make sure that you're not being robbed. It's not that piece. They found some deficient piece, something that's not what was in the plans. All right, that kind of thing. But read this verse. That's what makes this verse stand out to us. Moreover, they reckon not with these men. That is, they didn't have to keep an eye on these men, into whose hand they delivered the money. Once they gave him the money, they didn't have to worry about it. Listen to this. To be bestowed on the workmen, for they dealt faithfully. So they gave it to the foreman, or they gave it to the contractor to get all this done, and then they didn't keep an eye on anything, even though it's the project for the nation, because these men were honest. They dealt faithfully. They did not steal it. They did not skim. If this is what it's going to cost, and this is what the labor is going to be, and this is what the material is, everything had its right place. And you didn't have to keep your eye on these men that were doing this, because it says they dealt faithfully. I love that. I love that. I mean, it's not the same. This is not the same at all. But if you want to buy gas and you got cash, you give it to the guy at the gas station, and I know he's adjusting everything, but it's the spirit that when you give him the 20, you don't have to do anything. You just know he's going to type 20 in, and you're going to have 20 in the tank. Now, I mean that is so basic, but you don't have to keep an eye. You don't have to walk around the register and make sure he types 20 in. It's a 2-second thing, because you give him the money to put it on in the computer so you can pump the gas, because you know he's going to do it. You don't even think about it. It's that idea. You gave him the money to repair the breaches. It's going to cost this much. They already went over how much it's going to cost and how much the labor is to pay all these guys. You give it to the men that are going to supervise it, and then you just leave it to them because they've dealt faithfully. That's the way we should do everything. We need to keep an eye on things, but this is just a credit to these men, is what I'm trying to say. They were honest businessmen. Honest. You could talk to them, give them the money. You didn't have to sign anything. Their word was their bond. You shook hands and it was a done deal. I love that. I love that whole idea. It's just that in a wicked world, people take advantage of that kind of trust. You shake hands, you say everything's fine, and then unfortunately down the road you find out that it wasn't what you agreed to, you see. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah, well, you should just trust. Yeah, except it's not your money, it's the Lord's money. You got to be careful with it, all right? You got to make sure it's being used in the right way. And then it goes on. Verse 16, the trespass money and the sin money was not brought into the house of the Lord. It was the priest. So when it came to these things, it didn't go towards the construction. And then verses 17 through 21 is what I was talking about at the front of this. Hazael, the king of Syria, went up and fought against Gath, took it, And Hazael set his face to go up to Jerusalem. Remember Hazael, this wicked man? I mean, just wicked. So he goes after the Philistines. Then he's coming after Jerusalem. And then in verse 18, he's after Jerusalem. So what does the king do? I mean, this is just horrible. It says, and Jehoash, king of Judah, took all the hallowed things that Jehoshaphat and Jehoram and Ahaziah, his fathers, kings of Judah, had dedicated. He goes in and takes all the dedicated things out of the temple, and it said, and his own hallowed things, and all the gold that was found in the treasures of the house of the Lord and in the king's house. He took everything that was of value, and sent it to Hazael, king of Syria, and he went away from Jerusalem. That is, he bought him off so he wasn't attacked, but he emptied the treasury without only the threat of Hazael, and he plundered all the riches both of the palace and of the temple, just to pay him off, to get him off the gate so he did not attack Jerusalem. He did everything. He gave everything. They're down to nothing. And then it says, let's see. And then his servants arose, made a conspiracy, and slew Joash. And that's because of the stoning of Zechariah, the prophet that said you should not be slipping back into idolatry. And then we have verse 21 that he dies. And it's interesting. I'm pretty sure he's buried in Jerusalem, but not buried with the kings. So he starts off amazing, but when his counselor, Jehoiada, dies, he loses his way. It's almost like he's borrowing grace, because when his master, so to speak, his tutor, is gone, when he gets on his own, he can't make it. All right. Well, the Lord bless you. Wow, this stuff. There's so much. So many things to learn. Principles that we all need to know. Okay, Lord bless you. You have a great day. We'll see you. Bye.